time to let old things die. Snoke, Skywalker, the Sith, the Jedi, the Rebels, let it all die. Rey, I want you to join me. We can rule together and bring a new order to the galaxy.
Don't do this, Ben. Please don't go this way.
No, you're still holding on! Let go!
I'm in a love-hate relationship with Disney, because when they make something good, it's great, but when they make something bad, it's insufferable. And the company really seems to be stuck in a rut right now where they're just making remake after remake after remake. And some of them are good, but I'm starting to miss the original content. I can't blame them though, because it's an easy way to make money off of people's nostalgia. And that's not always a bad thing, as long as they're doing it right, but lately they haven't been, because most of their recent remakes and sequels have sucked. And that's a shame, because my favorite sci-fi movie of all time is a Disney sequel. Put down your pitchforks, Star Wars fans, I'm not talking to you. Even though the Star Wars sequels aren't as bad as you make them out to be. I'm talking about the 2010 movie Tron Legacy, which for anyone who doesn't know is a sequel to the 1982 movie Tron, which is about this video game designer named Kevin Flynn who gets sucked into the computer world and now has to fight alongside a program that his friend created so that they can destroy an evil program called the Master Control Program. The movie feels like a Grammarly commercial at times, being that it's wordy and hard to understand, but it's still probably my second favorite sci-fi movie of all time, right next to the sequel. That isn't to say that Tron Legacy is a better movie than Tron, I personally just connected with it a lot more. It's a movie about family. I apologize, but I had to make that joke. Anyways, years after the original Tron, Kevin Flynn has— Yeah! Okay, tell me if you can see what's wrong with that image. Creepy CGI Kevin Flynn is cursed. I actually give the movie a lot of credit though, because he only looks bad in a couple of scenes. And for 2010, that's still really impressive. Anyways, it turns out that over the years, Kevin and Tron have actually built a new grid, a whole new computer world different from the one in the first movie, and he promises his son Sam that one day he'll take him there. Until one day, Kevin Flynn seemingly just vanishes off the face of the earth. So Sam grows up believing that his father either died or just abandoned him. Until one day, he breaks into his father's old office, and he himself gets sucked into the grid. Here he's forced to fight in these things called disc wars, where they basically whip frisbees at each other, and the frisbees also contain all their memories and knowledge, and it's just this whole big deal. And it takes Sam a minute, but eventually he gets the hang of the whole disc war thing, and after that he starts to win. Which is pretty cool until this guy named Jarvis notices that Sam isn't in their filing system. And so Jarvis's boss is like, "Bring him to me." So Sam gets taken in to see Jarvis's boss, who's like, "Hey kiddo, how you been?" And then Sam is like, Daddy? Is that you? And he's like, "No, I'm not your dad, and I actually want to kill you." Then Sam is like, "Aw, nards," because he remembers that his dad actually made a clone of himself in the grid to take care of it when he couldn't be there, and this must be that clone, and it looks like he's pretty evil these days. So then the coolest scene in the movie happens, because it's been a full 5 minutes since the last action scene. So Sam has to fight Clue on these things called light cycles, where they have like these beams coming out of the back, and it's like Snafu. Have you ever played Snafu? It's Snafu. So right as Sam is about to get completely murdered, this hot chick shows up and saves him. And she's like, "Yo, my name is Cora." And Sam's like, "Okay." So then Cora takes Sam to this cave in the middle of nowhere. And Sam's dad is there. Like for real this time. And Sam is like, "Daddy?" And his dad is like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then Sam is like, "Dad, I don't like this vacation. I want to go home." And his dad is like, "Dude, I want to go home too, but that's really not an option right now. Cause like, I got the evil clone. Remember that?" And Sam is like, "Oh yeah. But Dad, the portal to go home is open now, and it's not going to be open for much longer, so if we want to go home, we better skedaddle." And his dad is like, "No, you big dummy, that's exactly what Clue wants, us headed towards the portal. He'll be waiting for us there, and he will kill us. So the best thing we can do is just try to live a comfortable life in this here cave." And Sam is like, "Well, I really don't like that." So Sam goes off on his own and has his plan to try to get out of the grid up by himself and then try to save his dad from the outside. So he goes and tries to get help from Michael Sheen, you know, the guy who laughs in Twilight. But Michael Sheen is like, "No help for you," and this big fight breaks out. And Sam is like, "Oh no." But it's okay because his dad shows up with the coolest entrance ever. And Sam Sam's dad is so cool that the good guys just instantly start winning the fight simply because he's there. Like, he doesn't even do much, he just kind of shows up and everything starts going well. But Cora got injured in the fight, so now they have to take her out of there real quick. So they take a ride on a cable cart and they get on out of there. A few more shenanigans ensue, and we find out that Cora is actually this thing called an ISO, which means she's the only thing in the grid that Kevin Flynn didn't create. Including Sam, if you think about it. And there used to be a lot more of the ISOs, but it turns out that Clue actually killed them all. You see, Clue's programming, his purpose was to create the perfect system. And because the ISOs are technically a glitch, he's incapable of seeing them as anything but imperfect. He sees them all as mistakes that should be erased. And this is actually why Clue is probably my favorite movie villain ever. Clue believed that killing the ISOs was the right thing to do, not because he's a bad person, but because that's what his programming told him. He literally cannot see it from another point of view. So when Flynn left Clue behind and became afraid of him, Clue didn't understand why he didn't get what he did wrong. He's angry at Flynn because he did everything Flynn told him to do, but Flynn still abandoned him. And it broke Clue's heart because he viewed Flynn as his father, because Flynn is the one who created him.
You promised that we would change the world together. You broke your promise.
I also love that in the scene where Flynn finally apologizes to Clue, you can see how badly he wants to forgive him, but that he simply can't. He's not able to do it.
I'm sorry, Clue. I'm sorry.
The complex nature of this character is why he's my favorite villain. The only other movie villain that comes close for me is Davy Jones, because with both of these characters, you hate them for the things that they've done, but you sympathize with them for their reasoning. That's what makes a great villain. At the end of the day, Tron Legacy is always going to be my favorite sci-fi movie. I understand if other people can't get into it, but I just love this movie so much. There's so much complexity to the characters and the storyline that I just admire, especially as someone who intends to get into filmmaking himself. I also love all the Easter eggs to the first movie.
Now that is a big door.
Now that is a big door.
I highly recommend both of these movies, but if you don't want to see the first movie, you really don't need to see it to understand this one. I really hope Disney starts making movies like this again, because I can't stand the big remake phase they're going through right now. But anyways, that's really all I have to say about Tron Legacy, so have a good day.